Tuesday, January 10. Honour the Lord. The book of Proverbs is not so much about right and wrong as it is about wisdom and foolishness. As one reads through the book, one will see the benefits of wisdom and the pitfalls of foolishness. Read Proverbs chapter 3, verses 1 to 10. What wonderful promises are given here? Also, what does first fruits of all your increase mean? Proverbs 3, beginning at verse 1, My son, do not forget my law, but let your heart keep my commands. For length of days and long life and peace they will add to you. Let not mercy and truth forsake you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. And so find favour and high esteem in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. It will be health to your flesh and strength to your bones. Honour the Lord with your possessions and with the firstfruits of all your increase. So your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will overflow with new wine. God asks us to put him first in the management of our possessions as an acknowledgement of his ownership of all things and as a demonstration of our faith in him to provide for us. But even more than this, he says that if we will put him first, then he will bless what's left. For us to do this, that is, to put him first, is an act of faith, an act of trust, a manifestation of trusting in the Lord with all your heart and indeed not leaning on your own understanding, which is especially important because so often things happen that we cannot understand and cannot make sense of. Nothing, though, should spur us on more in trusting God and his love than does the cross. When you realize what each one of us has been given in Jesus, not just as our Creator and our Sustainer, but also as our Redeemer, returning to God the firstfruits of whatever we have is indeed the least we could do. Jesus as our Creator, we look at John chapter 1, verses 1 to 4. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And our Sustainer, Hebrews 1 verse 3, who being the brightness of his glory and the express image of his person, and upholding all things by the word of his power, when he had by himself purged our sins, sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high. And as our Redeemer, Revelation chapter 5 verse 9, and they sang a new song, saying, You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, for you were slain, and have redeemed us to God by your blood, out of every tribe and tongue and people and nation. Ellen White writes in Counsels on Stewardship, page 81, Not only does the Lord claim the tithe as his own, but he tells us how it should be reserved for him. He says, Honour the Lord with your substance and with the firstfruits of all thine increase. This does not teach that we are to spend our means on ourselves and bring to the Lord the remnant, even though it should be otherwise an honest tithe. Let God's portion be first set apart. End of quote. God says that if we put him first, our barns will be filled with plenty in Proverbs 3 verse 10. Yet this is not going to happen by miracle. That is, you are not going to wake up one day and find your barns and vats suddenly full. Instead, the Bible is filled with principles about good stewardship, careful planning, and financial responsibility, of which faithfulness to what God calls us to do is our first and foremost responsibility. And so, to finish today, How, though, do we learn to trust God and in His promises during hard financial times when even while we are seeking to be faithful, the barns and vats are not full? This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. And you can listen and watch at the same time on YouTube. Remember, God is always faithful. And here is a disclaimer. Contents of these lessons are not intended to be financial advice, but is general commentary based on biblical principles. The reader is encouraged to seek competent professional advice which will suit their particular personal situation.